Tonight's guest is Alan. Alan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vic. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Alan, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, my name's Alan. I live in Meigs County, Ohio. That's where my encounter happened. I am a pretty big guy. I'm 6'4", about 280 as of right now. It's a little bit smaller than my encounter happened. I'm a big time into outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking, spending just a lot of time, as much time as I can outdoors without interfering with work.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Sounds like you like to do a lot of fun things. Speaking of your interest in the outdoors, what kind of an effect did your encounter have on that?
Well, after that, just a little bit leery of stuff. Always had, my head on a swivel, especially out if I'm by myself or for the matter of anywhere. I don't really like to get, when it gets close to dusk or, dawn, I normally will head out or head in to whatever location I'm hunting at. I don't like to go if it's a half an hour or so before it gets daylight. That's pushing it right there. I don't like to go any farther than that.
Well, that doesn't make you any different than most eyewitnesses. When you have a Dogman encounter, it normally has that effect on you.
Yeah.
You say that the area where you grew up, it was kind of freaky. What more can you tell us about that?
It was, I don't know, the land and stuff like that. It's just a lot of deep brush and stuff like that. A lot of forest and woods. That's all we was surrounded by. We had the property I lived on had 88 acres. So it was, there was a lot to explore, and I only did so during the daytime, not at night so much. Did a lot of coon hunting and stuff like that with my dad, but that was younger than when I had my encounter.
Well, if the area was that creepy, I don't blame you for not traipsing around after dark. From what I understand, you used to have nightmares about werewolves before you had that encounter. What's the story behind that?
Well, my dad, he was a big prankster and jokester. He always used to joke around. His version of the werewolf was called a piggy wolf. And he always tormented me and my brother, and even some cousins had some nightmares over that. But he was always big into that kind of movies and stuff like that. We watched a lot of horror films growing up. I mean, it just kind of got me into it. And then, of course, in return, when I watched the movies and stuff, I would have some nightmares about it. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that'd be enough to give anyone nightmares. But no,
Yeah.
You can't just touch on that and move on. What in the world is a piggy wolf supposed to be?
Oh, well, my grandpa is, I guess, how it got all started. He had false teeth, and he would flip them upside down and scare us kids. He'd chase us around the house with it. So that's how that kind of got started. He said it was kind of a cross between a werewolf and a pig. It had a more smunched up nose. And now come to think about it, I mean, there could be some behind it with a type 3, I think is what you call them. More of a smushed in face type, Dogman, I guess. I don't know. I mean, stories and legends always how do they get their start? I mean, somebody's seen something somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've got to admit, you really have me wondering what in the world a piggy wolf would look like.
Yeah, I really don't know. Maybe it was what I saw. I don't know.
No, it sounds more to me like you saw a beer wolf if you had to make a comparison. But yeah, we'll get into that in just a bit here. You had nightmares back then because of what your dad did, but do you have nightmares present day about your encounter or about Dogmen in general?
I haven't had one probably about a year, I would say. The last one I had, it was, I can't remember exactly where I was in my dream, but I know that I was getting chased by quite a few of them, and they eventually did catch me, and it didn't end pretty, let's just say that.
No, I get it. I understand. There are 2 breeds of dog that you say you'll never be able to own. Please talk us through that.
Well, that would definitely be a Doberman Pinscher and a German Shepherd. I after that experience, it's always just kind of freaked me out. And something about that breed of dog just kind of makes me a little bit uneasy. And I love big dogs. Don't get me wrong. I've got a coonhound mix, and she's about 40 pounds, and she's a pretty good sized dog. She can reach up and almost touch my shoulder. So she's pretty tall, but I just, I don't think I could ever own one of those. It, just makes me really, really uneasy when I'm around them. That's about all I can explain. Growing up, we did rescue, it was a timber wolf mix with, I don't know, some other kind of big breed of dog, but the dog was really old, and, it passed away. I don't know, maybe a year after we had it, but that was the closest thing that growing up, especially, that we ever had in that type of dog.
It's not just you feeling that way. There are a lot of eyewitnesses who have told me about how the Spitz type dog they owned, like a Husky or a Malamute, or the German Shepherd they owned, or even the Doberman, that dog will look at them a certain way and they get the creeps and it just puts them off. So, like I said, it's not just you.
Well, that's good. At least that, some of the encounters that I've heard on the radio through your show, the canine type that, look like that, I'm afraid that I would probably, I'd probably wet myself if I ever seen something like that. That's just super unnerving for me.
Oh, it is. It is unnerving. When you first found out about the show, there was a revelation you had that really unsettled you. Please expand on that for us.
I didn't know there was anything of a Dogman. The Dogman that I remember, thinking of is, it was an old Western kind of movie about Indians, because my mom and then, my dad, they liked those type of shows. And that's the only thing I thought of Dogman when I heard that. I just thought it was a werewolf, and that's how I explained it to everybody until I heard about your show. And, I was like, oh, goodness gracious, that's gotta be what I seen then. Cause, werewolves are, they come out at full moon and change into, a man to a beast. So that's the only thing I can possibly think of.
If you did have to worry about encountering a werewolf, do you think you're lucky to encounter that Dogman instead, or do you think encountering a werewolf would be better?
I think I would rather encounter the werewolf, just because I've heard how, evil and, malicious through your shows that I've listened to, about them jiggling handles and tapping on glass and stuff like that. I don't think I would be so easy with that compared to a werewolf.
If you could choose to not encounter either one, I think that might be the best out. But no, I get it. I definitely get it. Before we move on, if you've had a Dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, either way is fine, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. Also, you should know I've got a new Bigfoot show I'm producing. It's called My Bigfoot Sighting, and I put a link for it in the description for tonight's show. You really should check it out. If you listen, you'll see that it's a different kind of Bigfoot show, and I think you'll like it. Alright, now that I've shared that with you, let's get back to the show. Alright, Alan, please tell us about your encounter now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Okay, well, I was, this was back in 2002. I had a job working at the local, restaurant. It was about, maybe 10 or 15 minutes from where I lived. And, I got off work one night about 10:30-ish. And, this particular restaurant, you could take, food and stuff like that home with you. So I grabbed some, I think, ice cream or something and a drink, because I had a couple of smaller dogs at home that, they look forward to stuff like that, and having a little bit of ice cream wasn't too bad neither when I get home. So, anyways, I got in my car, took off, just like I do every single evening about the same time. And, I went down the same road. It was about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 miles into the road. There's a, long straightaway, and it goes into a bend, and then it shoots straight and then turns again. As I, was topping, a little hill to go into that, I turn my brights on because it's late at night. Nobody's around. And I get to that bend, and my eyes hit what I called a werewolf at the time. It was on all fours over a trash can or two, and it lifted its head up and was eating something. I don't know what it was eating, but it just kind of had, just kind of looked at me like, just go about your business and we'll be okay. But the thing that really was the most unnerving was the eye shine. It was a blue colored eye shine. I've got, like I said in the interview, I have a dog, a bigger coonhound, and her eyes are kind of blue. And when the light reflected, as soon as I seen that, it kind of gave me the willies. But anyways, back to that, it was jet black. I mean, blacker than the darkness around it. It was huge. I mean, I was in the car and it was eye level with me. Had a pretty decent sized snout or muzzle, whatever you want to call it. Teeth wise, they were fairly larger than your normal dog, but not overly, sized. But anyways, after that, I said, oh crap. And I just stomped on the gas and got out of there as fast as I possibly could. I looked around, rolled up all the windows. It was summer. And, I just was constantly checking, looking, rearview mirror, everything like that. And not to my knowledge that it, did not follow me home. So, but, I only live from that area about 5 minutes down the road. And actually, if you take and don't have any road and go straight, it's a lot less than that. But I got home. I screeched to definitely a sliding stop in the gravel, jumped out of my vehicle, left whatever I had in there, and ran in the house. Locked the door. Constantly checking to make sure it wasn't there. And I didn't sleep very well that night. I think I actually just kind of passed out from exhaustion. But I'm sure that I did have a nightmare about the creature. I just I can't recall that night. So that is my encounter. The best way I can describe it. It's been many years ago, but like I said, just kind of, yeah.
It's a lot to take in and process.
Mm-hmm.
No, I understand. Did you get a chance to see its legs by chance?
I did not. The only part that I could see over the trash can was, it's like from, I guess you would call it, shoulders up. Legs I did not see because, like I said, it was on all fours. Yeah. And the vehicle I had, the lights were definitely not the best or brightest. Just a young teenager and had just an old beater car.
No, we've all been there. You said it was big. How big would you say it was?
Oh, it was, well, let's see here. I was in the car and I would say it was every bit of maybe, I'd say 5 foot at the top of its head or better. It was massive. I mean, it took up a lot of space and it was just facing me. It wasn't turned sideways or nothing. So it was big. It was big enough. I thought it was a bear. In a way, the size comparison to like a black bear. But I mean, and then the face, there's no bear out there that has a canine's face. And the eye shine, I don't know about the whole black bear, what color their eyes are, but that blue is just like a piercing kind of, really, really kind of just, yeah.
Like I said, it's a lot to process. When you mentioned that you initially thought it was a bear, Are you saying that it did have some bear-like qualities to it? I know you said its head was that of a canid, but did it still have bear-like features in a way, or was it strictly canid features, but because of its size, you thought it must have been a bear?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I thought it was a bear by the size of it. I thought there is no dog that big that lives in any kind of area like that. There's no way. I mean, the area where it was, there was a dog kennel next to maybe about 6 or 7 feet from the Dogman. And I know that they had I think it was a husky or something like that. And there ain't no way that dog, I could have confused that for that dog. And I don't think that we had any bear in that area at the time either, which is what my father, when I told him, read it off as being. And he said that he said, after all the time that we spent in the woods, we would have ran across something like that. And I'm like, well, whatever. And that was the end of that conversation. My dad was just kind of it was all fun and games and the movies and stuff like that. But come to real life, it's like, nah, don't think so. So.
Yeah, that doesn't help. You don't have any bears in Ohio there anyway, do you?
We do have black bears, but I've only noticed some of them recently. It's not been back then. I never heard or seen of any kind of black bear around that area back then, up until, I don't even think there's any right there now that they've caught. My dad, we have trail cameras placed all over the property that we hunt on and stuff, and we never caught anything like that or we've seen some over the news and papers and stuff like that up north towards Logan and areas like that, but nothing down in Meigs County.
Yeah, that couldn't be a bear anyway.
Yeah, it was a very, very, very big, like I said, werewolf. That's the first thing that hit me that's what I seen. And then, like I said, I listened to your podcast and I find out Dogman. I'm like, there was an episode where a guy said the Dogman that he had encountered was like a cross between the size of a bear and had like a wolf's appearance. And that episode when I listened to it, I just got cold chills all over. I was like, that's exactly what I was looking at.
If he was 5 feet tall on all fours, there's a good chance he was an 11-footer, maybe even a 12-footer when you consider how long their torsos are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely glad that I didn't have any kind of breakdowns or nothing like that, because I'm sure that I probably would have just slept in the car that night and tried to get a ride that morning if I could with anybody. There's no way I would have got out if I had a flat tire or any kind of mechanical issues with the vehicle, which the vehicle that I owned was known to have mechanical issues, but I'm just lucky it didn't happen that night.
Oh, I'm sure you are. No, I understand. When we spoke for the first time, you told me that you thought that dog that went missing, that might have been at the hands of that Dogman. Please elaborate on that for us.
Well, I hesitantly drove down the same road in broad daylight about maybe a week or so, maybe less than that. And the owners were outside taking down the dog cage, which the dog cage was right next to their garage. And I was like, oh my gosh, I said, well, that's not good. And I told my dad about it, and he's like, oh, well, the dog got sick and died. And then in the back of my mind, it kept thinking, maybe the Dogman, that's what it was eating. Maybe it got a hold of the dog and that, or it was run through the trash. Couldn't really see what was in its mouth. I just know it was chewing, and it lifted its head and it was still chomping when it seen me. So it looked at me.
Well, it goes without saying, I hope that's not what it was eating, but I guess we're never going to know. How remote was the area where you saw that Dogman?
Well, I drove through there, I don't know, recent years and that way, and it's gotten really developed, but then there was maybe that house and maybe 2 or three within 3 or 4 miles of each other. So it was a pretty isolated area. There was forest, cornfields and fields, hay fields all around the area. And, there's a bunch of valleys and stuff like that in that area also. But yeah, it was pretty isolated. I mean, that whole area growing up, you had to go in town to, trick or treat. You would go house to house, but it'd be a mile or so before you get to the next house.
Wow. Yeah, that is remote.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way we liked it out there. I mean, it didn't have to, nobody really, bugged us or messed with us or anything like that. We just, rode our bikes on the road whenever we wanted to and didn't have to worry about getting hit by a car. So, in my ideal, that's the kind of living, every child should get. But of course, now knowing there's Dogman out there, I kind of hesitate. My kids do not go, without eyesight of me or my, spouse. That is one of our rules. They do not leave my sight, no matter where I am.
Well, in my opinion, I think that's a good policy whether you have to deal with dogmen or not, because as you know, a lot of kids go missing. You never know if it's a stranger or something else that might be involved in the foul play. So keeping an eye on the kids, I think that's a great idea. Were there any times before that night when you were driving home that anything strange happened to you?
No, just, a bunch of deer and stuff like that out in that area. And I was comfortable, Like I said, I'm a pretty big dude. I can handle my own. But, I didn't have to worry about that, anything like that. My dad, he always told me, there's nothing out there that is, too big that you can't handle by your own. And after seeing that there's no way I go anywhere without a sidearm and some kind of, tool to defend myself. Even though I don't think it'd do much against a dogman for sure, but still. And just a little bit of peace of mind, I think, for myself.
Well, it's hard to blame you for doing that. You just mentioned your dad. When you told him about your encounter, you said that he initially rebuffed you. Did he ever come around and believe you, or does he still believe that you're full of it?
He still believes I'm full of it. Just like I said, I've after that one time and then telling him about the dog that was gone, I just kind of left it alone at that. I told a couple of friends and, they just kind of, it's like, oh, well, I don't know what to say about that, or just kind of laughed about it. Had one friend even say, well, are you sure it wasn't me at nighttime? And I was like, no, definitely was not you.
Wow. It's a shame it's got to be that way.
Yeah. No, that's why I was so excited when, I started listening to your podcast. I was like, there's people actually out there that's actually, they've got somebody to talk to that believes them and other eyewitnesses, which is awesome because, it's something I can get a little bit more peace of mind about knowing, I'm not really the only one out there that's seen these. And I thought it was all just maybe in my imagination, but I knew what I seen and it was there. There's no way you can unsee what you've seen.
There's no denying that. That's a fact. You're married. Have you told your wife about your encounter? And if you have, how'd she respond?
I've told my wife, and actually, before I came on, I told her, I said, you remember that encounter I told you about? And she's like, huh? And I said, yeah, about the werewolf. And she's like, oh, I said, yeah, exactly. I said, that's exactly what I thought you was going to say. So I'm not known to stretch the truth or nothing like that. I'm just kind of honest when it comes to just about anything about the nicest guy you can know. But, she had a hard time believing in anything like that. And we both are big into, horror films, and I still love to watch, werewolf movies. I'm big into that stuff. Even though I did have my encounter, I still would like to know more about these creatures. It's amazing in a way that, something has got the kind of intelligence that we do, if not more. And, is able to rip you in shreds if, at a moment's will, which is not, I'm not saying that I would like to personally be that close to it, but, a far distance away, maybe with some binoculars or something like that, I think that'd be pretty interesting just to see. Nothing as close as what I had before. I was on the same side of the road as the animal, about maybe 6 foot from it, but that was close enough, especially with my car. There ain't no way I'd want to be closer in a vehicle at all.
So you'd like to see another one someday, but only if you're hovering at, say, 10,000 feet inside an M1 Abrams tank, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. Something I know that it couldn't come and get me.
Don't lose sight of the fact that so many of these eyewitnesses who reach out and contact me, the Dogman, if it wanted them, it could have gotten them. It had them dead to rights, but it didn't. And the one that you saw, it could have gotten you if it wanted to. If you're 6 feet away from it, then it had you, but it didn't hurt you because it didn't want to. So, yeah, it's all too easy because of the way they look to make them out to be monstrous killers, to demonize them, but see them for what they are, and that's going to make this so much easier to deal with. You said after you made it home, you looked out the window to see if it had followed you. You didn't see any hints that it had, but did anything ever after that night happen that led you to believe that it might have come around?
No, I didn't hear any kind of howls or anything like that, or tracks or see anything. So I'm thinking what had happened, and my personal opinion is I interrupted its meal and it just kind of looked at me like, hey, I'm kind of busy here. Just go on or there's going to be some trouble. So that's exactly how I took it. And that's exactly how it went. But no, I mean, we have a lot of coyotes around there. That's a huge problem in that area, especially. I can sit outside my dad's house and you can hear him. He hears them at night. There's bobcats and stuff like that. He's smack dab in the sticks and, literally gravel road. His neighbors are every bit of probably a half a mile away. You know, it's just the way he kind of likes it. And I enjoy going out there too. But like I said, I always have, some sort of, protection with me and, make sure to keep my head on a swivel. And I mean, another thing is I love to, catfish at night. I haven't done that for quite a few years, but, always very leery, always have a, decent sized flashlight with me. And like I said, my sidearm.
From the way you described that area, sure sounds like Dogman country to me.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, in a way it didn't surprise me. And I mean, that's definitely an area I think one or even a pack could live in without any trouble because of the abundance of wildlife we have with deer, turkey, squirrel, rabbits, you know, anything it can get its hands on.
Yeah, sounds like a perfect habitat. If you have another encounter someday, Alan, do you think that would mark the end of your interest in ever going back into the woods again, or do you think you'd ever be able to muster the courage to do that?
No, I still enjoy the woods, even though it would, you know, if I seen it, it would shake me up quite a little bit. But I mean, I don't think I could ever pull myself away from going in the woods. I just love it too much. It's where I get my kind of connection of peace and quiet from the busy day-to-day life that, you know, everybody lives in now. Some people go to, you know, the gym or hang out with friends. Me, I would rather be in a tree stand high off the ground, listening to the sounds and just taking it all in and just relaxing.
Yeah, you've got a lot of life left to live. It really would be a shame if you didn't go out and do all those things ever again. So, like I said, I'm glad to hear that you've got that mindset. You told us about all the time that you spend in the woods there, Alan, and from what I've heard, you saw a big black cat one time. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, well, it was squirrel season in our area, which is towards the end of September after it gets a good frost. But me and my brother at the time, I was probably about maybe, I don't know, 12 or 13, somewhere around there. And he's 5 years younger than me. So Dad didn't care, you know, just take your guns, be safe. We grew up hunting and stuff. It's one of those things where you went out and you didn't think twice about it. You just went out in the woods. So we went out and, we took about maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the woods. They had to go up a logging path and into a field. We crossed into the field into a little gully. And, you could see on the other side, it still ran up into another field. But anyways, we sat in there and it was kind of, you know, quiet, just looking and watching for, any kind of squirrels that we can take home and cook up. But anyways, we were sitting there and, I do remember it did get kind of quiet. Nothing was moving around. And I looked over on the other side of the valley, and there was a black creature. I'm like, what the heck is that? And it was a cat. The way I could tell it was a cat was it was kind of linky looking, and it had a long tail. And this thing was big. I mean, it was every bit of maybe 50, maybe 60 pounds or better. A black cat in the woods. And I'm like, of course it was a little bit of ways away. It could have been a lot bigger looking, from me to my little bit of road here that I got, but it was big. And I pushed my brother. He was sitting beside me, and I said, you see that? And he said, yeah, what is that? I said, it looks like a big black cat. I said, let's go ahead and go. So we just kind of got up, backed out, and that was the last I seen of that thing. And I don't want to see it again. I'm not a huge fan of cats. Just my opinion. Everybody's got their preference. But I would much rather run up on a coyote than any kind of feline like that, because I've seen and dealt with cats, the way they can handle themselves, and no thank you. No.
So you're not a big fan of cats, especially oversized black ones then?
Exactly. And I know people out there say, oh, there's no such thing as, black cats and panthers and stuff. But I'm telling you, what I seen was a black cat, and it was big.
Well, as you might know, you're not the only person from Ohio who's told me about seeing one, so it's not just you.
Actually, no, I did not know that. I didn't. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have.
Wow. That's something else.
Yeah, over the years, I think 2 or 3 people from Ohio have told me about seeing them. But having said that, it's about time for us to get out of here. But before we do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
Just that people, if you have an experience, come on this show. I mean, Vic is an awesome guy. He's listened to me and through all the stuff I've been through. But I know people have had a lot worse experiences than what I have. Just don't be afraid, I'm just a small town kid that had a story, and he was nice enough to put on the show. So, and just try to take what I am taking out of it. I mean, the Dogman, they're a creature. They're out there. We just try to coexist the best that we can, and don't let this stop you. I mean, it's I could go out to pick my son up from school now and end up dying in a car crash compared to going out and getting mutilated by a Dogman or something. Just live your life the way you want it, and try not to let this hinder this of you, your life.
Well, that's all very well said and very good advice. Alan, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing the details of that experience with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks again so much. Have a great night.